appropriate. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Hayley. I think you know that one of the most important people in my life is struggling to live at this moment. And it's a challenging time to love somebody so much and to have them be such an important part of your identity and your life. And then to think about them not being in your life. This is my older sister, Kathy, who really, we're psychically linked. And she, went into the hospital for surgery on a broken femur, and the pain meds created constipation, which created a break in the colon, which created a need for surgery, and then her lungs filled with water or fluid, and now her kids are horrified to look at her because she looks, I told them, remember that what you're looking at is your mom's car, you're not looking at her.
Right, and I'm sure it's awfully scary with all of the medical equipment around too.
Terrible. Now she has hoses in her nose to ventilate, to give her a fighting chance to see if she can recover, because she wasn't able to breathe. But I wrote about it because I have to write when at the end of the day, thoughts just are there, and I feel like, okay, put them down. And Facebook is the easiest place because I can just push publish, and so many people responded. I'm many in sympathy, but a lot of them in recognition that that with what I said, that if you're going to love, a condition of love is suffering. If you're going to love, you have to be prepared to suffer, because the loss of that love, especially if it's intense, is devastating. And that's just part of the bargain. What do you think about that?
There's so much love. I think there's very much love is infinite. So there is no loss to love. And I think where we're being pushed is to really extend ourselves into that concept of the love is never lost. The person might change, but the love is never lost. And I had a wonderful, it was almost like a funny meme, but to me it was so deep. And I'm sure everybody that saw it was just like, oh, that's funny. But the meme was, for my new trick, I'm going to break my own heart by making myself more important to other people than they realize or they even want to. And I thought it was so important to say that I'm going to break my own heart by loving and for making myself important to other people. There's boundaries there too, but I think if you look at the suffering around love, I think it's because we close ourselves off to with this concept that love is finite, that love ends.
That's not my experience. I don't disagree at all that my sister and the love that we have is going to last through my life and beyond. I agree with that. That's a small consolation when you're experiencing the intense feelings of loss of access.
Loss of access to the person.
Yeah. Her name popped up and my emails, and popped up in my Facebook, and I realized that once she goes, and this is what one of the things I've dealt with my folks, but it's been many years. I have this desire to call and hear their voices and laugh and hear them say, expressions that like my older sister would say, mercy, and
A good word for now.
yeah, I'm gonna
Very
miss.
smart word for now.
I'm gonna miss that. Her voice saying it.
I think it's a very interesting thing, this concept of how magical and how real the human body is, and how important the human body is to our experience on this earth. Because the things that you're speaking of are physical body things. It's voice, vibration. It's the presence of this physical body. And I think we get so wrapped up in the busyness of the day, and sometimes so wrapped up in the energy and trying to understand it all, that we very quickly overlook how magical and important the physicality of the body is, and how important our words are to people.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether they're written or spoken, it's just, they're received in such a potent way that I think it changes lives.
And I think we have to protect ourselves from toxic voices.
We do.
That we know will poison whatever moment that we have. We went to an event a couple nights ago, and I actually, and I think this is true for you, I haven't minded COVID containment because it's given me time to write and time to work in the garden, and not entertaining frees you up to spend time with yourself and the significant other, Ray, the dog. But we went to an event and we saw all these faces of people that we really love, really like. And I said, it's, you don't realize how much you miss somebody until you see them. And the joy that their face gives you, its smile, or the hug, the feel of the hug.
Yeah, the voice, the sound of them.
Yeah. But it was at that event, we were at dinner, and Ray saw a text come up saying that my niece didn't think my sister would last the night. And that was shocking to me, because I had no idea that
right.
It was
anything
that was that serious. I knew she was had a couple surgeries, but so we left because we, how do you stay and eat and maintain conversations with people when you're, when you're feeling such panic? But I think what happened for me, and happens for all of us when there's a threat of loss, real threat of loss, is that we start to pay close attention to who that person has been to us and what it would mean not to have them in the world. I couldn't imagine. Well, a friend of mine said, well, you can imagine, you just don't want to imagine what life would be like without them, without the ability to call them and talk to them. And so, my mind has been filled with lots of great memories of when I was little, with my sister, all the way through. I mean, as controversial as I was, coming out as a gay person at a time when no one even talked about it, the early 70s, and then got invited to do a lot of public speaking. I, looked out once and there was my sister, nodding and smiling, proud as she could be of me.
It's interesting that we're talking about the joy that people bring, and like looking back with the nostalgia of all the good moments. this week has been very prominent from a healing perspective. And this idea that we heal in the shadow, we heal, the dark night of the soul, that's when all the healing takes place. And a lot of that is around the dark memories, the traumatic memories. And I think we have just as much opportunity, and the healing is just as great, if not greater, when we heal in the light. And we allow these wonderful memories, these joyful memories, to be the healing, to be the sort of lights on the path of joy.
And cry.
I think crying is so important. I love, I'm not very good at crying, but I do find myself getting better at it, which is very odd to say that,
Well,
crying is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It's magical, and we all need to do it more often.
And if you're not one who cries easily, when you cry, people who know you know that this is a big deal.
Big deal.
This is, Ray knows that, when I cry.
Some big stuff's going down. And I would ask people that when you see people crying and having big cries, please don't try to stop them.
Yeah.
Please let them cry and just sit quietly, hold space. So if it's really uncomfortable for you, leave the room, let them have the cry.
Yeah. Don't touch them.
Don't get in it.
Yeah. You reach out and touch them because you want to comfort them, but you're interrupting the process. And that's hard for those of us who are
It's really hard.
Caregivers and rescuers and adult children and codependent. We want to take away the pain.
We want to, and I think that's a bit of a misconception, that tears always mean that there's pain. Tears a lot of the time are the end of pain and the beginning of something new, something different.
Uh-huh.
So we have this mindset that somebody crying somehow needs to be lifted out of that and saved from it. And I think it's almost like, no, that's the end. You're coming to the end of the suffering.
Yeah, I know that for me, crying is exhausting.
It's because it's so magical and so much healing and energy is happening at that point.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you think about it, you're turning emotions into water. I can't even imagine how much energy is needed to do that.
Yeah.
Like how?
Yeah.
And it just happens. Our bodies are so amazing that it just boom. And then you have a lot of tears. Like that's a lot of water.
Yeah.
It's a
Well, I one of the things that I needed to write. I write, and that's how I put my thoughts together, and I share them because I believe that other people have had or will have similar experiences, and they love the clarity of thinking, that you might offer them about what's going on. And a lot of people, and this was on Facebook, 200-300, I think, responded saying, about the pain of that comes with the loss of significant, and it's not just people, it's your pet, people losing your dog or cat can be, the most traumatic thing that's happened to you in years because of the attachment you have to them.
Yeah, and I would also add into that picture divorces, breakups, that pain of losing somebody.
Yeah.
It's just, I was talking about this with one of my dear clients, that there are no words for the pain. Like pain is almost just this very convenient, easy way of saying it's pain. But to actually go down and to be able to describe what that pain is for you
Uh-huh.
is difficult, because I don't feel like if I do we have any words that describe that pain.
Yeah, it's the pain is part of it is celebration. You know, when the positive memories come up, it's I think the crying is in celebration of how powerful and important that moment was for you, and how lucky you were to have that person, you know, in your life. Because, you know, I can say my big sister is dying, and people who have big sisters, you know, may not get it because they didn't have the same relationship.
Right.
Their person wasn't the same person that
Mhm.
my person was. So we, you know, we can't assume. And that's when you start to think, boy, was I lucky? Was I lucky to have this person in my life? Wow.
And it's not,
Mercy.
and I think to be able to have that connection, and it wasn't just a friend. It's not just a friend. This is like both of you were so blessed that you were brother and sister. So you got more time together. You had a much stronger, more unique bond.
Uh-huh.
Blessing is that. Like straight from, she was around from the time that you were born.
Yep. Yeah. And, you know, I had a brother who died between my sister being born and me being born. And you know, she ridiculously blamed herself for his death. But she was very present in my life and in my younger brother's. You know, my younger brother had a cyst, you know, next to his eye, just like Nikita Khrushchev, the old Russian communist. So my sister, on her own, once she had her driver's license, took him to a dermatologist and had it removed. And the dermatologist said, "Do you have parental permission?" My parents had no idea where they were. She said, "Yes, yes."
What an amazing child.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know she's a teenager, but she's still, she's not the parent. And just to have that wherewithal to be like, this is happening, I'm doing it.
Yeah, she decided she was parent to, you know, all of us. And you know, you don't know that other kids don't have the same experience.
No, and I think it's, going back to that blessing of, this is your experience. This is your sister.
Yeah. I loved going out to dinner with her in Birmingham, Michigan, which is where she lived, because people would come up to the table and say, "Mrs. Jalan, you may not remember me, but I was in your first grade class, and you're my favorite teacher of all time." And, "Oh, of course I remember you, Billy." And that was pretty special, yeah, to touch so many lives.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Yeah, when we were all thinking that she was going to die during the night, you know, of course, none of us slept very well.
Right.
And I was imagining giving her eulogy. I think I'm the least nervous of the family about getting up there and speaking. And I love the idea of seeing kids from school and cousins and neighbors and friends from childhood all assembled, right? And one of the things that I knew that I needed to say was, that in my entire life, I never heard my sister say a mean thing. She wasn't mean.
Just didn't have it in her.
She didn't. She doesn't mean that she, couldn't be hurt, but she didn't scheme, for revenge. She didn't say things to hurt
To make a
your
point.
feelings. And that's quite something.
That is something. It's rare.
At age 77, and I know that if I said that, people would nod their heads, when she dies, if indeed, this is her time, she wants to be cremated. And as Ray does, as I do, I don't want to pay for a ridiculously expensive coffin to sit wet in the earth and decay. I mean, that doesn't mean anything to me. But when you do that, and then you have a memorial service later, there are a lot fewer people.
Yes.
People arrive, people make airplane reservations when it's sudden and sad and unexpected, and you need to be there. But you hear there's a memorial service, you think, oh gee, I wish I could be there, but
It's not such a.
I don't.
I wonder why we do that.
Pardon?
I wonder why we do that.
Well, I think in some ways we go to the funeral because we need to be there. We need to be among the people who are also grieving.
Right.
By the time there's a memorial service, you're sort of done your grieving.
When you're grieving.
You've accepted it. And what else? You've moved on in life. Because life constantly demands your attention, constantly. The dog barks, it needs to go out. The neighbor says, I need your help. The news tells you something horrible about something that's happened in the world. So you keep, your mind keeps adjusting to whatever is asking for its attention. And so a memorial service for somebody who you loved, and you've already written your notes, to family about, it's often just less. So I think, okay, and I don't need to be the one to speak, but I sure hope that it's celebrated. That you can say anything besides that she was fun and funny and a great teacher. She was never mean.
She was never mean. I think that's such an inspiration.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think she even really tried. It's not like she woke up in the morning and was like, I'm not going to be mean today. I'm going to really try.
No.
It was very innate.
Yeah. She was a little of Lucy Ricardo. Have you ever watched I Love Lucy? I was afraid that if I mentioned that in a eulogy, the younger people would look at each other not knowing.
Everybody knows I Love Lucy. They're making a remake of it with Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So my sister could be, daffy and in a fun, great way. Just people love to be around her, love to be with her.
I can imagine the two of you together. That must have been quite a combination.
Oh my God. And I love to make her laugh. That was great fun. I love to make people laugh. I think laughter is such a wonderful sound, isn't it? Fill the air with this wonderful sound of joy. And
I feel like it's the human bird song. Like birds have their songs, humans
have. Yeah, we do. That's great. I like that. And we need to laugh more.
We do, and I think we need to just take a minute and of humility and just be like, you know what? Because I feel like, the same thing with the crying there is that we try and give ourselves an excuse to laugh. And if we're just having a moment of being caught up and laughing, we immediately try and be like, hush that, and it's nothing really here to laugh about. You know,
Right.
I would encourage, go laugh at it, even if you're just the only one enjoying it.
Ray has a great laugh. I mean, it's loud.
Fills
You
the
know,
house.
you're on an airplane, you know, of course, and he's got the earplugs in to watch a movie, so no one knows what he's laughing at, but you hear this laughter, you know, all over the section of the plane.
I think that's one of the joys about flying. I know flying is a bit of a tough thing, but
Yeah,
when people do that, or kids or adults are watching a movie and then they burst out into laughter, it's one of the joys of the world.
it is, and you can laugh with them without even knowing what they're.
And then you can, like, if it's a funny movie and they keep going, it's just like, you don't even need the movie. You're just like, you're my movie.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Go humans. We're quite a special bunch, aren't we?
Well, I think that crying is also, I mean, I know that animals can cry, but uh, you know, our tears are precious.
They are precious. They are precious. I think each one of them is a memory or a moment.
It is, and each, you know, and accepting loss is part of the circle of life. You know, I told my niece who all of, you know, my sister has 6 grandchildren. Each of her 3 kids have 2 children, all close in age, and they're very close. And my niece was talking about how hard it was to see her mom look like this. And I said, one day your daughters are going to have the same experience with you. You know, when you're 77 and in the hospital, you're not going to look, you know, the way we present ourselves daily, where you're just not going to look good. And it's a rite of passage for the child to be the parent, the caregiver, you know, as their own parent passes. It's been this way since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
From, you know, changing diapers, cleaning up after them, and the parent doesn't want that. They don't want to put that on their child, but it's part of it. And some people without children, you know, Ray and I don't have children, and so we don't expect you know, people to be stepping in for us. We have to make sure we have our own arrangements, because they all live too far away anyway. But you know, I have a friend who's a straight couple, and the husband needs help, you know, being wiped after he goes to the bathroom, and he said to his wife, I never meant this to happen, or I never meant it to be like this. Well, you don't, you know.
I mean, you don't.
And accepting it instead of fighting it, because you fight it, you make it harder for the other person to do what they need to do.
And you make it harder for you. It's just, fighting is hard. It makes
Yeah.
everything harder.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, there are parts of life that we don't accept, whether accept or expect, whether it be good things or bad things. And, you know, trying to question why they're happening doesn't really matter. They're happening. And
And putting blame is ridiculous, because
yeah,
it doesn't.
I think asking why is on that level of, there's no answer why. There's nothing that will satisfy you. You know, just getting to that point, like you say, of acceptance that this is where we're at. Let's make the most of it. And I think if you take your lovely Kathy, I mean, she sounds like somebody that would embrace that with such kindness and such an open heart of, well, this is where we're at. Let's make the most of it.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, the obvious question there, well, how do you make the most of that awful thing? And I think therein too is, you know, there is always beauty. there is always love. It really just depends on how much you're going to allow yourself to open back up to. And I'm not going to deny that these events, that pain of these events, really does cause us to shut down and really protect our heart, because that suffering is great. The pain that comes with that suffering is great. It is, fall to your knees, try and find a breath kind of greatness. But in us still being alive, it is still our choice to then stand back up and say, I'm going to open up now.
One of the things that happens, when you're going through your own life challenge, is that the news of the world is less important to you. I get a lot of news services that I read in the morning. I don't like listening to talking heads on television or the radio. I like, reading snippets of the news, and I get lots of them. But I find that when I'm emotionally exhausted and physically exhausted from processing my feelings of loss or whatever, I trash them as they come up, because I think, you know what, I don't need an update right at this moment. I don't need an update on what's happening in Glasgow, with the climate summit. I hope good things, but right now my mind is on my sister. And, should I be there? Well, I have a cold and I don't want to I don't want to make things worse.
Right.
By giving it to my nieces and nephews who are there all the time by her bedside.
Being on a plane too was going to make that cold feel worse.
Yeah. So, but it's funny when also, I wanted to say, I just published yesterday my book on being gay and gray.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm proud of the book. I'm pleased with the book. But it was a challenge, Hayley, to choose to publish it at a time in which I was writing about, my pain. How do you, in sequence have, moving testimony about the pain of loss, and then, guess what? Well, I've got a new book out, and then go back to, the impact of loss again. But for everything there is a season, and sometimes two things happen at once, right? Like the sun rises regardless of what's going on. Yeah. So I'm very, I'm glad about the book. I felt, okay, no, let people know, and Ray worked really hard at helping me try to get, they say just upload it and it'll be perfect, Well, that's not true. You look at it and think, holy mackerel, why is the table of contents all over the place,
It's never just upload and it's great.
No, you work and work and work and work and work at it, or you hire other people to do it.
Hire other people to do it.
Which you think, well, I know how to do this. I can do it if I'm just patient enough. But so, I celebrate the love of my sister, but here's the love of my husband. 3 days he worked on.
Amazing. And I think it's celebrating, love, because it's the love of your work, the love of you being able to speak your work.
And my sister was very proud of,
perfect timing, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting because one of the things because I read your article or your post, and one of the things that really was interesting and sort of made me question, because we do talk about sort of as you're aging, do we just underestimate and kind of be like, ah, they're over it, so who cares about them? When we talk about death and loss, because it, obviously when you're older, you start losing more people from natural causes. Do you think that there is this, I don't know what the right word is, do you think that there is almost this year
Acceptance.
that you should just get used to loss because that's where you are, and why is this loss so different?
I think that the loss is no less significant to you,
I agree.
but it's not shocking like it would be if you were a teenager
Right.
and lost a high school friend. Losing, my sister's 77. My mom died at 73. My dad at 82. My grandma was 101, so it's possible, but, and I don't know, I don't know how long I have.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason why I can't be 101. I'm not sure I want to be 101. But I do think that as you get older, you become wiser in the way of the world, and you know what to expend your energy on and what not to expend it on. I said earlier when we first started, what toxicity to avoid.
Yeah.
When you're younger, you may not do that, but as you get older, you think, no, I'm not going to do that. It's just going to wipe me out. Well, that's some of the joys of aging. I mean, that's part of what, my book is about, is that, one of the things that most attracted me to you when we first started talking was you believing that lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people had a superpower. I thought, and this is coming from a straight, white woman, I thought, wow, she gets it. She not everybody who's gay has a superpower, but we have a lot of gifts, and I write about that in the book, is that we have a lot of gifts that go to waste because the culture can get so preoccupied with thoughts of sex instead of looking at and listening to what's coming out of the mouth of this person. What do they know? What have they seen? What perspective do they have that I don't have? And we have a different perspective because our brains are wired differently.
We're unique people. We have different beats, so we're going to think differently and at different times.
Yeah. And so don't throw us off a building to our death in Iran because you think we're an abomination. That's the abomination.
That is the abomination.
Throwing young men to their death or crushing them in buildings. What horrible things people come up with in order to torture other human beings because they have a different sexual orientation or different religion,
different belief,
different beliefs. It's just insane. It's just
there are moments where I can feel like I'm about to drown under the cruelty of humans against humans.
Mm-hmm.
We sometimes think that humans are only cruel to animals, or that that's the worst that a human can be. I think the level of cruelty that we as humans put upon other humans is unimaginable. It's unimaginable, and it's there's never a getting used to it. Like it's never one of those things where you're like, oh, that again. It's always breathtaking. It's always just like, what?
Yeah, what? And that's where I get so confounded, because I do believe that, you know, each of us, each living thing shares this divine energy. We're all part of it. And so I think, you know, you are my brother, you are my sister. But how is it that you did what you did? It just doesn't, it is so evil, so mean, so, and as we said earlier, you're not going to get an answer. That's the
There's no
frustrating.
answer. There's such a big divide there. And I think
Yeah.
if you keep seeking for the answer, you're going to go down into that to understand. And then, oh man, you're in it. Careful what you wish for. It's.
Some of it is mental illness. I mean, I know that.
I think, you know, a lot of it, in my understanding and my questioning higher about it versus questioning lower about it, to me, you know, it's just a pattern of trauma that is perpetuated, and it takes an enormous amount of courage for somebody to stand up and out of it. 9 times out of 10, that person is going to be on the receiving end of that pattern. But we need, you know, and I think we're reaching a time in our evolution where more and more people are saying, like, this doesn't make sense anymore. So I do think that there is change. When I look at the media, and the media always highlights the worst. And for some reason, we celebrate humans being awful to other humans. We don't really celebrate humans being beautiful to other humans. So we've created this mindset where the most awful gets the most attention. So there's almost like a competition now. We really started raising the bar on that. So we were talking in a previous chat about how you and I talk to the TV. And I find myself doing the same thing to the media, where I'm just like, shush, I don't want to hear that. I don't think you're telling the truth to me. And I think it's helpful for me to actually say those kind of things, because it's getting it out of my throat. If I don't say it, then I'm just stuffing it down. So I feel like it's almost my little piece of being courageous and trying to break the pattern. Even though I'm not standing outside with a big plaque, I'm still putting that energy out where enough. That's not the truth. I would
Hayley, tell me, this is really personal, but in your own life, whose death would impact you the most?
Whose death has or will?
Will. Besides me.
Besides you, besides Ray.
I guess that's really personal, because you know,
I'm
I don't
not
want
to it. I have to go through it because it's not the usual suspects. You know, my friend, there are it's really the people that you know, my friend Leah, if she were to ever leave before me, that would be a tough one. That one would be a tough one. But I really
have you and Leah talked about that?
we don't really talk about like our own deaths. We haven't gone into the nitty-gritty of it. I think we'd both be pretty sad about it. That's a very light term. We tend to go more into the etherical side of it.
The what side of it?
The
theoretical?
Theoretical side and esoteric side of it. She would probably be one that was really would really, at this point in time of my life, really be sort of a stopping point for me. And not like forever stopping, just enough for me to be like, I'm checking out, people. I'll be back.
I think you should tell Leah that you feel that we've had this conversation.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be speaking to Leah this week, and she is one of those wonderful people where you know, where we share our greatest fears and we kind of help each other through it, and help each other see the other side of it. And, you know, hers would be an interesting one because a lot of my relationship with her is very energetic. So we're very well aware that, you know, life continues and love continues, and we'll always sort of, we're kind of doing this thing together. But from a physical perspective, and not underestimating the impact of a physical loss, it would be a tough one. And it's we've had a few chats around it, but then we tend to go on a tangent of like, so I was thinking about this, what about this?
Yeah.
Those
I
things.
I do think that people should give thought
And I
to
think we should
who
share.
who who are the people in our lives that we cannot imagine not being there,
Yeah.
and tell them that, let them know how important they are.
Um, one of my true beauties of life is the students that I work with, the college students, and they give me so much hope in terms of how they are viewing life and the future. And it is through them that I have got far more comfortable telling people how much they mean to me, regardless. Just, hey, instead of me just thinking about it, I now will send a message and be like, you're really important. Thank you. And I'm really proud of you, or I'm really grateful for you. And this is coming, these are like 19, 20-year-olds that really opened me up into that place of tell people you're important to me, so you're important to me. And I think it's, you know, part of that is it's not going to lessen the brunt and, you know, the impact of a physical loss. But I think what we hear so much is, I wish I could have told them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, Ray had said something, but I woke up this morning thinking I should go, you know, fly to Detroit. And I thought, you know, you don't feel well and your sister knows how you feel. Well, these last minutes, you know, I love you, aren't necessary if you've made it pretty clear, you know, in your life that you're very important to me. And, you know, please take care because I can't imagine life without you. Or as my friend said, I can imagine, but I don't want to.
Right. Like, let's enjoy our time together while we have it.
Absolutely. And know how important you are to me. Know it, because this is more than a casual friendship. You know, you really are part. You know, I tell people, you have a front row seat in my heart.
You know, when you look at that concept of like the toxicity and stuff, and I think if you, as you get perhaps older and maybe a little bit wiser, you start really focusing on those people that you give a front seat to. And you start really allowing that to be sort of the boundary of, if you're not going to be a front seat in my life, then what's the point? Or like, let's admit that, you know, we're different, or we're over here, over there. We're not really going to force it. I think that's what I'm really. Why force it?
Yeah. They don't even need to know, you know, about the front seat.
Yeah, I mean,
If you know, I think we need to. I think it's important to think about, okay, who is in that front row. And I think people who are in the front row need to have that affirmed.
We should speak it.
Yeah. People who are not don't even need to know that you're even thinking in those terms. Yeah. I need to tell you that you're not in the front row of my heart.
By the way, I've sent out invitations and I didn't send one to you, just so you know.
Yeah, you're like in the 14th row, I think, but
you're filler just so it looks full.
Yeah, now you're putting toxicity into their life. You know, they don't need that. just
Um,
don't say anything about it, but do think about, okay, who, really, who are the people in my life from the past? And they don't even have to be still important to me, but they still have a seat because of who they were to me, in my teen years, or they were the one teacher, who made such a difference.
such an impact.
Yeah.
We have a couple minutes left, and I wanted
Okay.
to ask you a question
Yes.
about Kathy. In your relationship with Kathy and how you knew Kathy and how you experienced Kathy, what do you think she would share about navigating these times that we're in? How to be a good human during these times?
In the times that in the world, you mean, with the Republicans, Democrats,
just in the world, as you're trying to be a human in this world right now, it's a lot. So what do you think she would offer from her perspective in terms of?
she'd keep it really simple. She'd say, love your kids, love your grandkids, let them know that you love them, be nice to everyone. My sister could walk into, no matter where she'd walk into, she'd have people, wanting to be her friend, because she'd talk to anybody, and if we all did that, if we all just, when we went into the drugstore, or we went into a grocery store, or whatever, that we think of everybody there as a sister or a brother, right? And we can tease them or laugh with them or make a joke or what. That's her. And that's her. Not too heavy. She wouldn't go into anything too heavy.
Bring it
Just
back to the basics.
put it out, be kind, and love the people in your life. Let them know you love them. And do good things, be thoughtful, but fun too. Fun. She loved having a good time.
Laughter.
Oh, she loved having a good time. She taught me to dance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, as a teenager. And I was the best dancer of the boys in my high school, but that's because my sister taught me. I had that advantage. Taught me cards. We had fun. We snuck out of the house together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not really surprising. Seems as though she took your younger brother to the doctor.
Yeah. No, yeah. She'd pull me out of class and we'd go to Cupie's for a hamburger with her friends, and
how amazing.
Fun. Yeah. I'm lucky to have had her in my life.
Definitely. I'm sure she's very lucky to have it. You needed the both of you.
Yeah. No, she loves me, and I know that. I mean, she loves, respects, cares about, listens to me. She was so sure, I'm not afraid to talk about death, and I've been that way for a long time. She says, "When I see you walk into the hospital, I'm getting out of the bed." Because I don't want to talk about death with you.
Where is she? Like, where does she live?
She lives in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And she has 2 daughters who live nearby, and 4 grandchildren, and then a son in Chicago. So everyone's really close.
I don't know Kathy, or I didn't know Kathy, but what you shared today, I feel like my life is a whole lot better for knowing of her.
Yeah, thank you.
I think my inspiration today and for the next days will be, let's put more effort into being love, being kind, and really being thoughtful.
And being fun.
I mean, that's the whole point of this. It is fun. And I know we've spoken about suffering, and there are moments where it's not fun. sucks,
Yeah.
those lead to really sweet moments of fun. It helps us to really appreciate them and go deeper into them.
Yeah. And she was a great teacher because she would relate to the kids where they were.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah.
What a wonderful light.
Yeah, she's a great light. She's a great light. And I know, as you said in the beginning, the love is there and it always will be. And it's in my soul. It's entwined in my being. It's just that I don't like thinking that I can't pick up the phone and call her.
It's the physical.
Yeah.
It's well, we will send her love and healing vibes and on
Thank you.
choice.
Thank you.
And have a candle for her for the next couple of days. It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting couple days. So
Yeah. Yeah.
she will do what's fun. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I want the world to be as good to her as she has been to the world. And yeah. So
I think she's receiving what she put out.
I hope. Yeah. Thank you, Hayley.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you to Kathy too. And
Thank
of
you,
course, if you
Kathy.
need anything, please shout.
And
I will
we'll
be thinking and praying for you and for Kathy and your family.
thank you. And
What
we'll
a light.
I'll see you in a week.
See you in a week. Lots of love to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.